Bantamweight rankings are in play. Coming up this weekend, Umar Nurmagomedov putting up his number 11th ranked slot in the division and his undefeated record on the line when he takes on the former RFA featherweight champ, Raoni Barcelos. And some would say, and they'd be a little bit cheeky, and they tell you that this is the matchup between a grappler and a Muay Thai artist. But listen, I had a little bit of fun with that because it's not totally so. If you watch Umar Nurmagomedov and his fighting style, he's a lot more Khabib and Zabit than Zabit and Khabib. You get my drift? He really mixes his martial arts well. And if you've only watched Nurmagomedov inside of the UFC's octagon, the only time you get to see him strike was in the third round against Nate Maness out of the 3 fights. Sergey Morozov, taking him down. The fight that he had his next time out against Brian Keller, I'm going to take it down. The fight against Maness, round 1, round 2, he took it down. And for Raoni Barcelos, you might look at him and think, man, this guy just bites down on mouthpieces till they're broken and he has to replace them. But when it comes to gum shields, I mean, listen, they stay in. He is a very good striker and a Muay Thai artist, but he's also a 5-time Brazilian national wrestling champion. And he was on their national team a number of times. And for Barcelos, his dad really taught him the sport. His dad was a great wrestler. His dad's like a 7th degree coral belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so Barcelos has that Jiu-Jitsu background, his pedigree. Barcelos in his 5 on in, he does have the 2 losses. The one to Timur Valiev by majority decision where he drops Valiev twice in the second round. His fight against Victor Henry was wild. And then his last time out, he looked great against Trevin Jones. And for Barcelos, he's got 5 knockdowns in 8 UFC fights, and he's 6-2 with the promotion.
Barcelos' 2-fight losing streak, to me, was like Laurie Markkinen last year. I sold all my stock. Goodbye. Like, I wanted nothing to do with him anymore. But Laurie Markkinen has been able to turn it around. He looks pretty good. And for Raoni, he got me back a little bit against Trevin Jones, but we kind of have to call ourselves out. We also have said on this very video, just earlier on, that Trevin Jones isn't a guy who always shows up at his peak capacity. And that was one of those fights where he didn't really look all that great. Let's just call it what it was. Like, yes, Raoni won, and he
looked amazing.
He did look really good, but again, the opponent in front of him wasn't necessarily the highest level opponent, and now you're fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, whose grappling is legitimately terrifying at 135.
Well, the thing that weirds me out about this is everybody looks at Umar Nurmagomedov and they consider it, they're like, oh, you like the boy, well, tell me what you like about him. Like, I don't know if I want to go that far. You would turn up little thought he ain't no wife about it. Like, I don't know what to make about Umar Nurmagomedov because there's so much fanfare and people don't necessarily focus on the things that we don't see as often, which, I mean, that only makes sense. But if you look at Nurmagomedov,
each other with the things you want to
the
say.
fight against Sidmar Anodio or the fight that he had against Said Yakub Kakrakhmanov over with the PFL, I mean, Umar Nurmagomedov was able to turn it on with his striking. So I can't wait to see what we get out of this matchup because for Barcelos, in those 8 UFC fights, he's been taken down once in his fight of the night against Kurt Holloway. He has 93% takedown defense in the UFC. All this to say, his background is wrestling, even though he's billed as a Muay Thai fighter. I can't wait to see what we get out of these.
It should be a really fun fight, because like you said, Barcelos, if he is able to defend some of those takedowns, he should be able to take advantage of some of his skill set on the feet. But the thing is, Nurmagomedov's not an easy guy to crack. Like, he moves very well, because like you had mentioned, he's going to stand in a way that's going to throw a lot of kicks, feint a lot of kicks with his hips, go from long range into his takedown attempts. So I think it's going to be really difficult for Raoni to find his own success on the feet, just because it is going to be difficult to damage Umar. So this could be one of those fights where Umar Nurmagomedov gets 4 minutes of top control every single round, gets outstruck for like 45 seconds, and then everybody's up in arms about the decision afterwards. Just like for Nurmagomedov, I know Barcelos has really good takedown defense in the UFC. Umar Nurmagomedov's a different kind of beast when it comes to his wrestling.
Like, how good's his takedown defense, guys? 93% in the UFC in 8 fights. He's 4th all-time in bantamweight history in bottom position time and bottom position percentage. And he's 9th all-time in bantamweight history in significant strikes landed per minute at 5.66. So Barcelos dishes it out, keeps it on the feet so he can dish it out a little bit more. Whereas for Nurmagomedov, again, the craziest part about him is those front leg prodding attacks. When he switches stances, he's like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at the fact that he can throw to all 3 levels with his front leg and offer up the question mark kick that we have on the channel. Exactly. But that's a big Nurmagomedov attack. And his line for the 3 fights he's had in the UFC, 4.35 significant strikes landed per minute to 0.37 strikes absorbed per minute. Morozov landed 7, Kelleher landed 1, and Maness landed 2, and that was a 3-round fight against Nate Maness. Wow. So Nurmagomedov not getting hit. Matt, we have a look at the Tapology votes. I don't expect them to be close. I feel like it's a slight to Barcelos. Nurmagomedov is a pretty big favorite, but I'm going to say over under I think there's some sensible people out there. I'll say over under 85% Nurmagomedov.
I think it's going to be over 93.
That's going to break my heart. Oh my God. 1,416 total votes, 94% Nurmagomedov, 62% by decision, 28% by submission. He's not going to submit him. For the 6% that have Barcelos, 63% by decision. Here's my pick, Matt, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Last year was the year of me picking underdogs, and it worked out pretty friggin' good on a lot of them. I want to pick Raoni Barcelos to keep up with last year's trend, but I don't want to lose the crown. I'm picking Umar Nurmagomedov in this one against my better judgment.
I have no second guesses about Umar Nurmagomedov. I gotta be honest. I think Nurmagomedov wins this fight quite easily, to be honest. I think he's going to use a lot of top control. I think he's going to out-wrestle him.
Nobody's done that to Barcelos.
I know, but Barcelos hasn't looked as good his last 3 fights.
He looked amazing his last time out.
His last time out against a guy who we have both brought up on this very channel, on this very show, doesn't always look great. So I think a lot of those stats point to the earlier side of Raoni Barcelos' UFC tenure, and I just don't think he's that same guy at this stage of his career. I said this even in his prime. It would have been nice if he just started 3 years earlier, because at 32, well, if he had only got started at 29, it would have given him a little bit more time. At 35, it is difficult to then go on a run after losing a couple fights, so I do like Umar Nurmagomedov in this one.
2 knockdowns 3 fights ago against Valiev, 134 significant strikes against Victor Henry for Barcelos.
Was 35, and that was his debut.
A big-time matchup coming up this weekend, but both of us going with American Kickboxing Academy's own Umar Nurmagomedov to get the win. Let us know down in the comments section who you have in this fight, and for the rest of them, keep that conversation flowing down there. We got some big fights on this card, including Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. Action Jackson, you're not going to want to miss that. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say,
let's get into it.